hear that? What is that? What you see, Pluto? Talk to me, Pluto. Talk to me. It's an asteroid. It's an asteroid and it's coming for Earth. Well, y'all might as well just let that thing hit. Y'all is not letting that rock hit my best friend. Well, you're not gonna sacrifice yourself, are you? You right, I'm not Earth. You gonna have to get hit. I told y'all she fake. Y'all don't let that thing hit me. I don't know about y'all, but I'm about to move out the way. Saturn hit it with your ring or something. Now you know I'm engaged. I can't do that. Wait. Who wanna play Simon Says? This is no time for Simon Says. Mars, I bet you can't play. Who can't? You. Simon Says move a little to your left. And I did. Now what Simon says? Mars, look out! Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace.
Hello everybody, my name is Moon and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to take a dive into the whole entire month of September. And if you thought August was more controversial, September honestly might have taken the cake solely because of one major event that has happened within the span of a couple of weeks. So with this one, I'm going to talk about the stuff in the game weeks like last time, then dive into the Horse Girl campaign, the September portion, and then finally the fucking major earthquake that shook the entire community with the fucking updated character beta testing. Keep in mind, for that section specifically, we're gonna be discussing a shit ton of info. So without further ado, let's get into the first 2 weeks of September. So after the chaos that was August, we have SSO's 11th birthday happening way too early, even though everyone and their mom knows their birthday is in October, because apparently it's because of shit with Halloween. So for the first week, they kind of did something different and had a mini-ass questline. By mini-ass questline, we're talking like 10 minutes or so. To sum it up, basically you're introduced to the birthday event, but the cake isn't baked yet, so this Walgreens clown motherfucker,
Hola, orale, wait, let's get this party!
Wants you to help Jamie Oliver Tree bake and show the other shit they've recycled for years, from the money-hungry shopping carts to the Instagram picture areas to half-cut XP birthday race bonuses and mentioning other shit we're gonna discuss later. So first, Jamie has you go searching for escaped chickens because they ran away from her shitty cooking. After you get all the chickens and bring them back to Jamie, Buck Stable strikes again and decides to have the chickens become your ultimate stalker paparazzi fan club that never leaves you alone.
Do you know the way? The way!
The way!
The queen!
Do you know the way?
The queen! Do you know the way?
The way!
The way!
Do you know the way?
Are you kidding me right now?
The way!
You are absolutely
The way!
The way!
My princess!
My queen!
My
My
princess!
queen!
Jamie then asks you to make a keto diet to get the chickens to shit eggs, so you plant some corn and gather greens, and by the magic of SSO logic, corn grows in a few seconds. So you get the corn and feed that shit to the cage, since the chickens are still a paparazzi fan club following you everywhere, by the way. And then you decide on a flavor for the cake, which doesn't really affect anything, by the way, and you start making the cake like you're on Hell's Kitchen or Cupcake Wars.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Come on, man.
I just need a...
This is the lamb.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Right here, chef. I got it.
sauce is coming up.
There's just nothing coming together.
After baking that shit in the oven, that's conveniently placed in the back of the raggedy ass shed. You place it in the center and talk to the clown nose bitch again, and you're done with the quest. So besides that short ass quest line, they've brought back the 10th anniversary horse that was made, even though that was supposed to be a special ass one-time free horse, but nah. You can buy this shit for 600 star coins. I can understand why they brought it back because of money, to have it again, but this was used for the 10th anniversary, so in itself it's not really a thing where you can say, yeah, I've been here for their 10th anniversary. It's not like every other fucking magical horse or other limited edition horses brought back every year. You can also do the golden horseshoe hunt again, but honestly, you just need to know what locations locations they're in. You can honestly find them without a map and get enough in a day and then exchange them to Clown Nose bitch for this year's exchangeable B-Day set that's not behind expensive ass prices. Then there's the birthday quizzes again, which, by the way, they're literally recycled from last year's quizzes. All they did was change the rewards and that was it. It's literally the exact same answers and questions from last year. The final thing you can do that's newish in week 1 is the theater bootcamp. Basically, you get to dress up based on a theme that Thalia gives you, and within the time limit, you have to click on the move that the bitch asked you for to get that shit right and get golden horseshoes in return and also horse XP. This year's birthday outfit that you get from exchanging the golden horseshoes and the outfit from the quizzes, I actually really like them a lot. They're actually cute, not gonna lie. Lastly, after almost 10 full months, ladies, gents, and non-binary buds, we finally got fucking star coin codes. Even though it was flipped to also have this navy set and some other random shit, which is also cute, but also some of this shit that's really ugly. I felt like these brown ass poo-poo ears. We finally got our fucking free ass money after so long. And it only took till almost 3/4 of the year to pass by. So with the first week out of the way, on to the second week, which is honestly not a lot. Go figure. We have a scavenger hunt like last year, but here's the thing. Y'all, it's once again the same exact one with almost the same exact rewards besides changing the very last one to change the clothing one at the very end. Y'all seriously couldn't make the scavenger hunt along with the quizzes different? Like, come on now. You could have used other SSO history facts besides these ones. Like, literally there's a bunch in this game. For some odd reason, they decided to have the app Pacifino and Connemara come to the game permanently, just like Embermain, even though you can get their ass, once again, in the app at level 10. The same exact price. And they also mentioned how the app will also have paddock decorations and shit, but I don't know if anyone really does put effort into the appearance-wise side of the app. Honestly, people just go there for the horses, man. No one really takes the time to just fucking do the garden shit and do the appearance. Like, no one really does that. Then they had the cheap-ass Nixies again, and finally we have another fancy clothing set in the store. So now I'll start talking about the pros and cons of this event. So starting with the pros, which it's not much. For starters, we finally got free star coins. That's always appreciated when it comes to SSO. As for the free clothes that we got this year, a lot of them were really nice. It's been fucking good. The birthday set, honestly, this is probably one of those sets that I don't mind wearing throughout the whole entire game a lot. Like, it's actually fucking cute. Next, I appreciate that they done something different with having a quest line somewhat, even though it was really short as fuck. Next, I also ended up really liking the theater activity because it brings an existing mechanic that wasn't really used much and add a little bit of something with dressing up. But I do wish it would have went to building up to having an actual show where you act and have to get shit right on point and in a certain amount of time that's actually shorter or longer and have outfits for it, etc. And lastly, I do like there's flexibility with the event in terms of getting the golden horseshoes, as in you can get all that shit in time if you missed out for a week or so. However, there's certain drawbacks with this which we're going to discuss in the cons. The problem with this much flexibility is that it's so easy to finish everything in one day that there's honestly nothing else to do in the game. It's why when you have flexibility, you gotta have it balanced to where it'll keep us engaged enough to still get on and play without it feeling like a grind, which is what I think SSO struggles a lot with events. They tend to go up and down with grinding a lot to not having much in an event and finish quickly, which is why I think having more to the activities and creating new activities that are engaging and not mainly Instagram shit worthy would benefit the gameplay and more creativity content-wise. Next, the quest line was short as fuck from the chicken bug to mainly just throwing out logic and more so feeling like just get this shit done and already move on. Then we got expensive ass clothes again. Are we really surprised anymore that most of the clothing in this game now costs 10k Jorvik shillings because they're trying to push us into using our star coins? Like, come on now. Then, as I mentioned earlier, this was also buggy as fuck with not just the chicken paparazzi, but y'all, people were fucking imprisoned in Dark Court. Basically, what happened was, if you went to Dark Court through the boat like you normally would, your ass couldn't return home. Your ass was stuck there. And the only way you can get home is by glitching the game a shit ton to get home. Next, this shit was very much recycled from last year. As I said before, the scavenger hunt and quizzes are the same as last year, so somehow y'all can't think of new questions or places to go anymore and still call this new. Yet y'all can think of a bunch of clothes that are very expensive and shove it in our face. Like, what the fuck? Y'all need to be more creative with content, dear God. And lastly, this mainly just feels like a cash grab with using the 10th anniversary horse and the 2 horses from the app. It was somehow a slightly better birthday than the 10th anniversary, and somehow you were able to do star coins for the 11th but not the 10th. Let alone, this also felt like it was rushed out considering the birthday is in October and not September. The only good thing about this is getting star coins and cuter clothes this time around. Now with my thoughts out of the way, onto the questionnaire portion, which is also short as hell since this was honestly just a really short event. As always, I asked, did the birthday event improve this year? And we are leaning towards the hell no side again. Next, did y'all enjoy the event? And only 81% of y'all said hell no. Y'all are fucking savages, I swear. And finally, if it was improved, would it feel more like a celebration? And 85% of y'all said yes. Overall, SSO in the past couple of years have just been dry when it comes to making their birthdays feel like an actual birthday party because of how, just like other events, it's just a shopping mall. And once you finish everything, all you really can do is shop or just train and grind, and that's it. So with that being said, on to the grading portion. Activities, a 1 out of 5. Y'all really copy pasted the fucking quizzes and scavenger hunts, dear God. Planning, 1.5 out of 5. I wasn't expecting a short quest line, but to be honest, that's as far as different as it goes. But good outfits though. Character incorporation, 1 out of 5. Purchasable products, event currency or not, 1.5 out of 5. And the reason being was the majority of the clothing was something that you had to buy with your own money. Like, come on now, it's too fucking expensive. Presentation, 1.5 out of 5. Quests, 2 out of 5. Horse XP, 3.75 out of 5. Rider XP, you guessed it, 0 out of 5. Overall, it's a score of 12.25 out of 35, and that equates to 3.5 out of 10. Recycle shit and copy pasted shit with a few sprinkles of nice outfits and codes. You got yourself an SSO birthday. So now with that out of the way, let's move on to the last 2 actual weeks of September before actually diving into the actual chaotic shit that happened outside of the game in September. The last 2 weeks of September was the start of SSO mainly doing short-ass quests that last 2 to 3 minutes called Story Snacks, which is basically SSO's Bible app verse of the week version, but for quests with Miss Holdsworth, talking about stuff that she found that's related to the lore. The first one was over Galliford Thompson's diary, detailing on how Thompson met the Vala Witch, which led to shit falling apart for him and how he came to be, and also what led to the man becoming headless.
Oh my god, girl, you decapitated.
And the second one was how the Vala Witches came to Jorvik and basically trapped themselves in Devil's Gate with their asses. That's really about it on that part. As for everything else, we have more halter shit, new tech that can fit more Gen 3 horses, but they still haven't gotten to everyone yet. They really should at this point. A bug that can change your eye color for a week, buggy models, and oh, won't you look at that!
Horse colors to choose from.
So one by one, I'm going to go over each coat variation on which ones I like and don't like and why. For starters, we have the new Paint Icelandic. This is the second time we have a Paint Icelandic coat, and not gonna lie, like the other Paint Icelandic, I do like them. Icelandics are usually at an okay stance for me when it comes to horses. It's mainly because of their mane, cause look on the other side. Why we got one side that's a full side and the other side with the random ass mane noodle? Like, come on now. Not only that, this breed doesn't have much hairstyles that are cute, since you either have decent looking ones with the forelock out, either roached or braids, or you have Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts emo hair, or you can make your Icelandic bald or just have the braids and then show how unproportionate the neck is. I never really gave a rating on the Gen 3 Icelandics, so they're at a 7 out of 10 for me, and they're decent, but honestly I felt like they could have been done better considering how I still love the Gen 2 ones, but the main proportions would have probably helped boost the score up. Next we have this Bay Icelandic. I actually do like this one as well. I think it's cute, it's it's not the best one. Despite having black eyeliner, it's still cute, and it's still a 7 out of 10. Next we have this Pacifino, and as y'all know, the Pacifinos are pretty hot in itself, and I believe I rated them an 8 out of 10, or I might have forgotten to put the actual rating in there because I was very flabbergasted by how hot they were. But this coat is really gorgeous, and just like all the other horses that are on my list that I still haven't gotten yet, this one is also going on a wait list until I actually have enough star coins with the allowance that we have that only gives us 100 per week. Then we have this gorgeous, beautiful buckskin American quarter horse. This horse is also fucking pretty. The Gen 3 American quarter horses are also up there as one of the hot breeds of SSO, and if I had to rate them, they're at a 9 out of 10. I've always loved the color range of the American quarter horses despite the random little mane noodle that doesn't really move, but it actually just blends in, to be honest, so it doesn't really bother me that much compared to the Frisian and Icelandics noodle hair pieces. Also, another thing to note with the Icelandics, I kind of feel like the noodle stands out more on certain breeds depending if the mane is really dark or really light. Some of it make it work, but most of them just stand out really bad.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Next we have this new Appaloosa coat, and as y'all know, I'm not really a huge fan of the Gen 3 Appaloosas because they look more donkey-ish to me. These are those breeds where I'd buy a few and that's it, and it's mostly because of having most of the coats either look elderly, having stiff animation specifically in the chest region, and not to mention one of the breeds that unfortunately have a really sorry hard stop.
Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back.
This coat's alright, and I do give them that, but the 6 out of 10 I gave on the Appaloosas is still staying. Next we have the Irish Cob, and like all chunky boy breeds, I love Irish Cobs. This coat is alright, except I don't really like the feathering shading that much since it kind of just doesn't really look like it blended in well with the lighter undertone and then having a random caramel bit, but for the most part, it's still nice. If I had to rate the Irish Cobs in general, personally they're at a 8.5 out of 10, because I do really like them. Yes, they're not the best, but they can still pass off as hot in most cases. Finally, we have this English Thoroughbred, which honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like out of all the coats, this is the ugliest one.
Cut the cameras. Deadass.
Now, don't get me wrong, I like the English Thoroughbreds, but here's the thing. This one just looks like they took the caramel sauce from McDonald's caramel sundae, filled that shit up in the main color, and it just stands out way too much with the coat. English Thoroughbreds as a breed is a 7.95 out of 10 for me, but this coat is probably my least favorite out of all the English Thoroughbred coats released so far. With that out of the way, we do have to pay our respects to another Gen 1.5 breed that is getting the retirement hammer, and that is the Morab, who never got to go on Gen 2 and has never even made it to Gen 3. So as always, let's have a moment of silence for another horse breed SSO forgot to upgrade, and hope it'll return as a Gen 3 Phoenix that's hopefully not fucked up like the Gen 3 fucking crackhead Frisians. Thank you. Now that concludes the general game update weeks of September. But if you think we're done doing the video, honey, we got another storm coming, and it's about to be in waves. So let's first revisit the Horse Girl campaign portion of September and the recent 10% price increase. So, as we know from the last video, the Horse Girl campaign was a good idea, but a bad execution due to how, just like the 10th month anniversary, was cringy and sexist as fuck. Well, it didn't fucking stop in September, y'all.
Yeah, hello, 911?
So since the August portion, it's gotten cringier with still promoting the obsessed, crazy, weird idea, yet at the same time still more so giving a description of an equestrian. We can see this further in the perks of being a horse girl post in the Anja Faye interview, where they honestly give descriptions of an equestrian and not really the crazy, weird, obsessed shit they've been trying to normalize for the horse girl stereotype, which honestly further had people trying to get SSO for this campaign to stop trying to use the negatives as a way to make it better, when it's honestly better if they had just been encouraging from the start, because it's a better way to be empowering than trying to use words like obsessed, weird, annoying, and crazy, since it's only really going to negatively impact someone instead. There was also a Nami music video for this. I'm not even kidding, so if you like her music video, then this would count as the few positives that came from this fucking campaign. As for the cringiest shit, SSO decided to do some Insta survey polls called How Obsessed Are You with Horses? Which is only with the quote-unquote best of answers that could put the SAT exam in a coma, and by best I mean, what the fuck are these answers, bro? Question 1. I'm in the stable weekly or daily? They do know that not everyone and their mom can go to the stable every day, let alone afford to be at one, right? Question 2. Riding is a lifestyle or hobby? Again, not everyone has the privilege to be able to just go and ride a horse because they either don't have a horse or can't afford a horse, or let alone afford lessons and gear and shit you need to actually do it. You know that, right? Question 3. How do you decline an invitation? Nay or nay? Oh god, someone kill me. Question 4. How do you greet people? Hey or oh my god. I need eye bleach again. I've already had to use it for the ambassador series, but shit, I need that shit again. Dear god. Final question. How many legs do you have? 2 or 3? Bitch. If you have 6 legs, you're possessed. Listen, y'all, I know it's supposed to be your 2 legs and then the 4 horses' legs, but when you really say you have 6 legs without any explanation whatsoever, people are gonna think you're fucking high if your dumbass really asks how many legs do you have to any random fucking stranger and say 6. Now, I only did 2 of the questions because, as most of us know from the last video, I unfortunately can't afford a horse, let alone actual riding lessons anyways. I'd love to own horses and learn to ride, but there's a little something called money, and you need that and financial stability to actually do it. And the other reason is my ass doesn't say nay, let alone the horse sound nay when saying no to shit. So as you can see, the hey and the horse food question, the majority of the poll thankfully said the normal word hey. And for the legs one, once again, thankfully the majority of the poll had a brain and said 2 legs. If your ass picked 6 legs, I need you to give me a fucking reason why. Same goes for the horse sound nay, because otherwise, I'd like to know if you were drunk, high, or just really wanting to be trendy for this, dear god. Now we've come to the part of this where I explain something that's intertwined with the Horse Girl campaign, and that is the 10% increase of the prices of star coins in lifetime. During the second week of September, SSO did an article announcing that they were going to increase the prices by 10% on September 26th. So to analyze the prices, let's compare them before and after the 10% increase. Before the 10% increase, lifetime was 75 USD, and as for star coins, it only costed $30 to buy an expensive ass horse because of needing to get the 1K one to even buy any of the Gen 3 horses. Well, no, if you want to have more than one Gen 1 or more than one Gen 2, maybe depending on the breed. So here's the prices of the star coins, and as for memberships, I forgot to grab them, but essentially, as I said earlier, lifetime was $75. As of right now, star coin prices are essentially this. One horse is now $32, y'all. $32. But their most expensive shit for 5K star coins without the sale right now is $70. And mind you, beforehand it was $65. As for lifetime, it's now $80. The reason they increased the price is mainly because right now in Sweden, the inflation rates are extremely high. And as for my stance on it, I can understand the inflation part. I get that. However, I also feel like right now their game just doesn't really seem like it's worth $80 in terms of value. When it's not in an event basis right now, the game is just dry as an oasis. And with the events right now, we're getting mainly recycled shit that's happening every year with sprinkles of new stuff. The updates have been lackluster, and it just mainly feels like a digital shopping mall. Not only that, it just feels like it's expecting you to do the same cycle of buying expensive horses and then train them over and over. There's not really an end game once you finish everything in the game. When events come, it's mainly grinding away to get everything because they'll end up being used in the shop, costing star coins and being more expensive. I really hope it is for the sake of improving things like their tech and having better opportunities for actual content and good updates. But as of now, the game's at the crumbling downfall until they finally see their game is struggling from the bugs up to the lack of actual content to now not even being creative in activities and even some quests to buggy horse breeds and more, the game's gonna slowly decline in the crumbling plague. Now you're probably wondering,
What the hell does this do with the Horse Girl campaign?
well, if you remember from the last video, the survey they did prior to the campaign before it started also asked shit on horse games and SSO themselves, and of course SSO, in good old toxic positivity fashion, they decided to only share the top 3 positive feelings of SSO, and that somehow includes positivity, calmness, and part of the community. Yeah, about that. The only positivity I feel nowadays is when either waking up and seeing the bullshit, or if something is actually fun in their game. And the only calmness there is when the game becomes a fucking desert after events are over. And the only part of the community I feel is when I'm not trying to have to deal with fucking toxic positivity bitches and white knights trying to tear my ass. And that is what I'm speaking of about bullshit on this game. Like I'm being crucified with rose tint glasses instead of a cross. Also, in terms of SSO, I now only feel sad, disappointed, and frustrated because somehow this fucking MMO that I've grown up with for now 10 years has fucking plummeted because of having a lot of ignorance to when people are giving SSO actual feedback that's not sugarcoating or overly positive. We've also had to constantly deal with having SSO change shit behind our back that we didn't ask for to be changed, having bugs that are still not fucking fixed yet, having our ideas shoved under the rug, having shitty breeds, and more. So if you think everyone's happy in La La Land SSO, you need to fucking wake up and see people are begging, let alone hoping your ass could listen and actually deliver and not feel like they have to plead to you like you're a god.
Because every time you make actual good decisions, somehow in some way, you end up changing your mind and making a shitty one. And you make more shittier decisions that backfire. Jesus Christ, wake up. Your ass is going to one day see your game just have barely anyone playing it anymore.
Okay, now that I'm more calm, so how do you think people reacted to this post knowing that they didn't show the actual top 3, and instead just picked the 3 most positive ones to look good? A big old dosage of honesty. After this, they had an article detailing about the survey before the campaign started and also detailed more on the bullying people do experience. Turns out the words they're trying to normalize with the main words people were referring to, along with detailing what horse riding makes people feel, and of course trying to make their ass look good by only stating the positive feelings people gave on horse games instead of just being honest and showed the full result of both positive and negatives. It's interesting to note they only did an English and German survey, so it makes me wonder if the 16,400 responses they claimed to have was really from all over the world. There was also a post where ambassadors and some other influencers, which was mainly a mixture of people that I either somewhat knew or I don't really know who the fuck they are, and they basically gave their spill, which obviously more so gave the description of equestrians and also a mix of fitting into the horse girl stereotype all over again. Overall, this campaign has good intentions, but as stated from the August video, it's not really inclusive and it's not really a good idea to try to normalize negative words to break away a stereotype. I wish they really saw how both women, men, and people who are non-binary are also affected by this, and maybe this could have worked out for the better if they had just been more inclusive and instead used more empowering words to break away from the stereotype instead of feeding into it. Now, as of if there's anything from it in October, there's a little more on the campaign, mainly with the charity thing, which we'll discuss in October as the aftermath of the Horse Girl campaign, but if anything else major happens with this campaign, then it would actually be more than an aftermath of this campaign. So now that we've discussed these two situations, it's time for the final and most controversial portion of this video, aka the one that stole the show for September as a whole, and that is the beta test characters. I would like to preface this is gonna be very info heavy, because to be honest, this felt like a chaotic war in itself. So with that being said, let's discuss the beta test characters. This section was probably the hardest one to write because of the fact that this shit is controversial. And it's also to the point that it's a full-on war based on something you say or how you interpret things. And this is also the reason why this video took so long to fucking come out. So the way I'm breaking this down is I'm gonna discuss this in phases, starting from the background of when the characters were updated the first few times to now. And throughout these phases, I'll be referencing to a lot of info, pictures, and footage with their credit given. And with this section, I will be handling this with as much care as possible. So two things are either gonna happen after this video. I say my opinion and explain my reasoning, and I'm still surviving and standing for y'all to see my shit. Or I say my opinion and you end up finding a girl in a ditch somewhere after getting jumped on. So with that out of the way, let's start with phase 1, the beginning. The beginning of the characters go way back to when we had giraffe necks, crusty eyes, and makeup. SSO announced they would update the characters in fall of 2017. Despite all the feedback they received on social media, they didn't do jack shit until shit was released afterwards. Basically, the neck was non-existent, making the hair and the head look really weird as fuck, the eyes were more dead than my soul, and animations varied from okay to what the fuck is this fucking run?
Help me get this possession.
After the backlash, SSO eventually tweaked them and people were a lot more okay with them, but they could have been updated better. During this time, this is where we would get 2 new hairstyles that came with Mistfall, and after that, there hasn't been any new hairstyles in the game added as of now for 5 years. Then as time passed, SSO started to talk more in their year reviews on updating the characters. This would soon become a constant thing. They would keep saying that it is getting pushed back to next year to the point of people getting tired and even still asking about them to this day. It being the most broken promise has also made this the most anticipated update in SSO history, beating Saving On as the most anticipated update. From here, we haven't seen any concept art until they really started to show us concept art once they started doing their month reviews for this year. So let's look at each concept art from here to before the beta. In the end of the year 2021 review, they finally showed us concept art of not only a very good diverse skin range, but also more body types and even some new hairstyles. At the time, myself and others were extremely hopeful seeing this, especially my black ass seeing natural curly hair options and my skin tone in the range. Compared to now as seen here, I was actually able to pick my skin tone dead on in the concept art, and we're gonna come back to this point once discussing the next phase. This was looking promising, and as it went on to almost the first half of the year, in each month's block showing different progress. However, that hope started to shift a little once we got to June based on this concept art right here. This is where I think we should have seen this from the get-go with the beta because the face started to look a lot more Baby Alive doll-like, and with the makeup it was standing out more, and from there it was mainly tech stuff up until August where they announced they were gonna do a beta test in September. And this, ladies, gents, and non-binary buds, is when we see a bigger shift in questioning how stuff will become for the characters. Phase 2 is the pre-plan of the beta test for the launch. On social media, SSO opened up a Google form for people to sign up for the beta test on August 15th, 2022. But you need to be at least 16 years old or older, and a shit ton of people signed up. However, by looking at the cover, people were really worried about how the characters look, not only because of hoping there was going to be a lot of diversity, but also because our characters here looked as emotionless as a mannequin in JCPenney.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Another major concern was that this also just felt way too early to have a beta because the characters still looked unfinished, and a lot of people, including myself, were worried it was going to get rushed. People were both excited for the beta and hoped they'll be selected. As for me, I didn't sign up mainly because based on SSO's track record, they tend to pick the more positive people to do stuff like this, which by the way, once we get to the next phase, this will make a lot more sense. By September 15th, 2022, the beta testers were chosen and a lot of people were pissed. It was a mixture of saltiness and sadness, but for the most part, it didn't lead into a lot of chaos, and that's mainly because it was very understandable. However, some people asked SSO how many people applied and how many were chosen, and they chose 150 people out of 50,000 applications. Now, before I go to my next point, we're gonna pull out my statistics knowledge because, fun fact, I'm a Spanish major biology minor in the pre-med track, and the main math that we are required to take is statistics. So we're gonna get into some math, but mainly it's oversampling. What SSO did was a voluntary response bias sample, which is when you do things like a survey and send it out, and people that signed up did it voluntarily. The problem with this is it leads to not really getting a good amount of people from the general population for your sample without any biased opinions. And considering the population in this case for SSO is in the millions, 50,000 is nothing compared to the genuine amount of people who play SSO. SSO then selected their sample, which at first it was assumed to be a random sample, which is typically the best way to get a sample without any bias. However, their sample size is 150, which is 0.3% of the 50K form submissions. The problem is they should have gone for a bigger sample size of 50,000 for the beta. Yes, a smaller sample means more control, but that leads to a higher chance of your bias being heavily biased, either being an unresponsive bias due to how, since it's only with your SSO account email, it could go to someone that doesn't have access to their email, or somebody that applied to the beta test doesn't want to do the beta anymore. The other three biases that happened, we'll once again mention one of them in the next phase, is the response bias, which is when people answer based on who the person surveying them is and give them inaccurate or sugarcoating responses. So think of, for example, a McDonald's CEO in their uniform asking you to try a burger for them and give feedback. People end up being more inclined to say it's good because there's an actual higher up employee from there asking them about the food. This is an issue because when you sign up to be a beta tester, you have to put your bias aside and give your constructive criticism. I'm gonna emphasize this further in the next phase because, dear God, even the biggest of YouTubers still can't do that.
I'm scared, Dad.
Do you trust me, son?
Yes.
Come on, son. Rule number 1, never trust anybody.
The final biases that happen is first a selection bias with the sample because most of the people in the sample based on who was public were mainly people from the US and Europe. Very few were from other countries. On top of that, they mainly picked the more overly positive influencers along with throwing in their ambassadors and employees as the final bias. A convenience bias, since it's convenient that they have a bigger following and are readily available. Very few of the beta testers in the beta were honest and transparent. The funny thing is, originally, the beta wasn't gonna have anyone show anything on social media, but they changed to where people could showcase them on YouTube, Instagram, etc. So imagine if this shit happened behind closed doors.
10 billion points for Griffin Puff! Fuck you, Snape Griffin Puff win!
We would be in the shitter for sure. With that being said, the beta was set to launch on September 21st, 2022, but what we didn't know was that it was going to be a lot more chaotic than people initially thought. Phase 3 is as expected, the actual beta test. The beta test happened during week 3 of September. Since week 3 only really had a 3-minute quest and shit to buy, people mainly focused on what was going on in the beta based on the people who showed them publicly. Now before I move on, I would like to preface, this is in fact a beta, so there's gonna be buggy shit. However, that doesn't mean we can't give feedback. The purpose of a beta is to, once again, as stated in phase 2, is to give constructive criticism. So the people's footage, to name a few, I'll be using JustAnotherPixel, StarWriter, and Netta, and many others with screenshots and as well as videos or on social media. When people went to see what the beta characters looked like, well, they looked like this.
Hey, Dad!
Oh my god, what the f is that?
You like it?
No, no!
Why?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
After a lot of people saw the state of the characters at the moment, people started to get more fearful and worried because compared to the promises of being more diverse and inclusive, this was a step in the right direction, but it was very limited to compare to what we've been shown. And the reactions by the community, well, let's just take a look. So before I go into my opinion on the characters and what else I saw, let's go over the bugs in a bit of a war that's been happening since the beta. Bugs included almost butt-ass naked, stacked body textures, chat emotes being buggy, stoic dead facial expressions in the first week, retrofitting issues, especially with the poor crop tops, man, unfinished animations, buggy in certain gates, and more. Now, the war that happened during this was basically over the body types. A lot of people have been asking for more diverse body types that were not only slim, but also have more curvy, androgynous, masculine, and muscular, and more. But the problem with what the beta showed is that it's very limited. This led to people either getting fat shamed or skinny shamed, either because of liking a body type that's not thin, or because of someone just asking in a respectful way for more skinnier body types. First off, y'all, please do not fat shame or skinny shame someone for liking or wanting more body types. You're basically hurting each other by saying things like one side is more privileged than the other, or being extremely fat phobic. It doesn't help the situation. I'm gonna break down the body types further since I do have critique on them, but honestly, I believe a lot of us expected the beta to be more further down the line, and considering how I also feel that this beta test was very unorganized from the communication to also not really being honest on the sample size. From what I heard, the employees, ambassadors, and content creators are supposed to be separate from the actual 150 beta testers they selected, but as we can see here in a screenshot on one of the influencers in the beta test, the chat shows their numbers showing this influencer's stars denied as 147. So either the sample size really is separate from the content creators, employees, ambassadors, or it's really just mixed in. So now I have that out of the way, let's first look at what I liked about what was shown in the beta. First off, thank you for having more skin tones than before. It's definitely a start in the right direction, so hopefully more skin tones are added before they're released. Next, y'all, we actually have toes and we actually have fingers. Thank God. Fingers that we got just look like some sausages. Next, I love that there's more options to choose from with the hairstyles, eye color, eyebrows being separate from the face, and as said earlier, a start of having more body types. Now for the cons. For starters, back onto the body types, I feel like they're more so body weights than actual body types with different body shapes. Based on the beta, they're all pear-shaped, and it's just the body increasing in weights. I wish they honestly had a mixture of preset bodies and sliders that we could use that were in a lot of MMOs like Black Desert Online, Guild Wars 2, and many other MMOs, or even just regular games like Cyberpunk, so that we could actually make things such as our chest size bigger, since all the body types shown have the same chest size throughout. I also feel like the proportions of the body types are off, specifically in the upper body region, in the shoulders, the upper chest mainly, and also just anywhere else in the upper body parts. And that's mainly because since it doesn't really match the other half of the body. Now, obviously, yes, if someone's body is like this, that's completely fine. However, I feel like for a lot of people, it's hard to really see themselves in any of the body types shown. And even I mainly struggle to see a body type that's really right for me, since I'm not skinny, but I'm also not really this thick, since I'm going for a more lean, muscular body type. Think like a basketball player. It's also bothering me because they said this was a diverse base, saying there's muscular, masculine, adrenals, and slim. But to be honest, no one really picked up on that. And once again, it's mainly because it's just the same body increasing in weights. Which segues into my next point, the shading of the skin tones. Even though we have a lot of skin tones, the shading could have been better in some areas of the character. Specifically, the neck region just looks like they took a lot of dark contour and buffed it on, making it stand out more. There wasn't really much shading in the face either, let alone the supposed muscles of the supposed muscular body type. I feel like if they'd taken the time to actually define and shade the body, face, legs, and arms, this would look a lot better. Next, the characters just feel like toddlers to me. Based on lore, I don't think we're the age of a toddler or a kid in elementary school, and I feel like we're mainly a teenager or a college student age range, since especially the Soul Riders, they're mainly 18. If it's supposed to be a kid, I feel like it wouldn't make sense other than trying to cater to the younger audience. So I feel like if they added a choice to make ourselves look older, it would help, since a lot of the community is made up of older players, which also links up to the comment I made on wishing there were sliders to change things such as the chest size. Now, for anyone who's about to say, teenagers have smaller chests. Some teen, yes, but others like myself in high school, not everyone had a flat chest that was as flat as a board, because when you grow up, of course things like your chest is going to change for others. Next, I feel like the different face options could be better, since it felt like every time I saw the options change, it felt like I was looking at the same face with only a slight difference in the cheek cheekbones, nose, and the eyelids. This is where I feel like not only sliders would help his situation, but also making the preset faces more defined. Next, I feel like with these characters, makeup is a must, because without it, you look like you were dehydrated after waking up in the morning. And even though only some of the makeup options look nice to me, in my opinion, I feel like this is once again where shading would help a lot with not just the skin, but also in the makeup as well, as since it feels very reminiscent of cheap kids makeup in my opinion. But I would say for something like the Halloween makeup, it's pretty good. Next, another thing that contributes to the taller look is the eyes. And this is something an SSO art account that I do follow that also does SSO roleplay, but now is doing a webtoon, is Mizao. She pointed out that since in the eyes, the iris and the pupils were too large, giving it the dead facial expression and toddler look. And as shown here, changing not just the eye shape but also the size of the iris and pupil makes a huge difference, since there's supposed to be a little white gap underneath the pupil and iris, not having the iris take up the whole entire middle of the eye. I also sometimes feel like the eyes only differed slightly, whether it's a change in the eyelid type or if you can ever so slightly see a difference in the eye shape. It just really felt like I was looking at the same eye shape over and over. Next, I really wish they added different heights, because this would benefit my tall ass of about 6'2" a shit ton, along with others who are either more medium height or more short. Right now in the game, we're always short, while in the beta, from what I heard, we look too tall in some areas. I'm not really sure, but height was something I was hoping to see in character creation, so maybe they'll consider it at some point. Next, I felt like I only liked some of the hairstyles, since compared to the beta, there were a lot more hairstyles shown, and this could have also just be because they're not done yet. But for someone that's been worked on since the Tyranny age, a lot of people was expecting more stuff down the line of it.
Since you took the day off, do you mind cleaning up a little before I come home today?
Sure thing. Wait.
Some of the colors of the beta stand out due to mainly the shading of the skin or how it kind of feels like you're wearing a wig. However, I do gotta say there's definitely a lot of improvement in the hairstyles, like the braids. And also, this is something I forgot to mention in the pros, they actually have the hairstyle that I have in real life, which is this one. Now just hoping for a darker chocolate brown and you got my hair color. However, some of the hairstyles that already existed that are in the beta looked horrendous in my opinion. For example, the poor spiky hair went from this to looking like they just got out of the shower and somebody at the barber just fucked up on one side of their head. And then for the other short hairstyles, which by the way, there wasn't a lot in here, this one just screams Justin Bieber. If you like them, that's fine with me, but y'all,
I still see Justin Bieber.
Oddly enough, they look good masculine if paired with beards, surprisingly compared to the feminine side. So hopefully they get altered for the most part. I also feel like for the longer hairstyles or some with just straight cuts, it looks odd to me because of how straight the cut stands out, which could benefit them not just needing more shading, but also the way it's modeled. Next, the animations, both style and movement, are a mixture of, oh, okay, this is new, and oh, Jesus Christ. For starters, the facial animations, even though we can blink, the expressions chose feel very much like The Sims. I feel like this could have been emotes with looking confused or looking mischievous, and the smile just feels like a demonic evil smile.
You better not kill me, bitch, or I'm watching you. Yeah.
I was expecting the smile to be more softer or just kinder and more relaxed, and not this force. I just don't really see why we gotta look confused for an island animation, to be honest. And as for the other animations when on a horse, I feel like the lookout animation could once again be an emote instead of an idle animation, which could also change the game for photography, because I don't think someone constantly sits there on their horse and looks out like that in a constant cycle. I also feel like the shoulders rolling could be a little less exaggerated, so it once again looks more relaxed and not so vivid. The rider animations vary, since in some gates they look okay, but in other gates they look stiff. And finally, for the running and walking animations, the run reminds me of Daphne from Scooby-Doo, and the walk looks like you really need to use the bathroom. They also looked off in different body types to me, since it's what led to the weird body stack clipping issue, and also how it makes certain clothing look odd, so I hope they alter it. But also, I think a good idea is to have us choose what walk or run we want to do, kind of like in Sims 4 to feel feel more personalized. Next, I'm not a fan of how the clothes look since this is a bug with the retrofitting. I hope it's getting fixed because once again, the poor crop tops became baby tops and some of the clothes just feel like it's been stretched by not necessarily fitting. And finally, I still wish they had more than one gender because this would have promoted a lot of creativity with characters and also allowing players who aren't female be themselves, since a lot of people who play MMOs that allow you to create a character wants to create themselves. There's the constant standpoint that it would fuck up the story or it would just promote more dating, when the thing is, a dude or non-binary person wouldn't change anything in the story, since literally the actions you do in the game can be done by any gender. And as for the dating thing, honey, we already have dating and romance roles happening. Just look at Global long enough and you'll see an ad for a romance role play long enough. The other main argument is, oh my god, let girls have something. There's not many female protagonist games. Ooh girl, let me tell you. Honestly, as gaming improved, as I've said multiple times in other videos, there are a lot of female protagonist games, old and current, along with games that show strong female characters. Not only that, just to emphasize again, games like Red Dead Redemption 2 Story Mode, Kingdom Hearts, Persona 5, and more have set characters, and for games like Red Dead Redemption 2 that have an online version, you can be a girl there. And same goes for GTA 5 Online and many other MMOs. SSO is the only MMO I've ever encountered that forces you to be one gender. And with that, this is why I'll keep saying they are honestly being a hypocrite to the idea that they're inclusive and diverse when they're not. And even outside of gender, I feel like SSO tends to struggle when it comes to diversity and inclusiveness. They don't go in both directions, they only have little bits of sprinkles here and there. And this also goes for the issue with body types as well, since their thing is also they didn't go both directions in being diverse and inclusive. Now, before I go into my closing thoughts on this, let's look at the questionnaire I asked back in September regarding the beta test. It's 15 questions total, and for the sake of safety, considering how a lot of people went at each other over someone asking for more body types versus something like a body type, this is gonna be the only time I keep responses anonymous. For the first question, I asked before the beta, were you hopeful about the characters? And 71% said yes, 16% said no, and 13% were unsure. So at the time, a lot of us were hopeful for the new characters. Second question, this is the first open-ended one. I asked what were y'all's expectations for the beta, and here's each response that I'll be reading out. Smoother animations, very high. They looked so good, and I was excited to match the other Soul Riders graphics. Updated animations, I expected more. I feel like the only thing that was good was the hair and makeup. I expected more variety / options in skin tones and body types. Everything mostly finished in terms of all body types, etc. More variety in skin tones and all body types and eyelashes. I expected new animations. I wanted them to make the eyes and mouths more spread in the face because right now it looks like a baby face with all of its characteristics stuck in the middle. I also wanted the chest, don't get me wrong, I am all in for flat chest representation, but boobs still exist. Also more body types and skinnier ones too out of their desire to include every body shape. The team must have forgotten that there are other body types, which is weird since women work there as well. I hope they listen to our feedback, but to my eyes this is far from done. Things being more done, more actual inclusivity, skinnier as well as medium, bigger body types. Skinnier bodies too, face varieties, being able to choose face features one by one. Expected it to be better rigged and the body types to look a bit better, but it is a beta. I don't know, some more gender options or at least some masculine body types. Seeing updates, watch the new movements, how new hair / clothes look. I had low expectations for the beta. Expected the beta test to be further along in regards to how the clothes are. Expected them to be further along with variety and inclusivity of body types. In certain aspects like hair, for example, they were ready to beta test, I believe. Didn't think they would have players show off something not representative of #ride with us and #yes I ride. Okay, I forgot the hashtag, don't show my username, LMA. More skinny body types, to be honest. I expected beautiful new models with a few animations and few fitted clothes. Less bugs with clothing, better animations. I was expecting clothes to work better and facial expressions by now. Third question I asked, should the beta test have come later at a different time? And y'all, when I watched this for a while, it was a fight between yes and no. Overall, the results were 55% yes and 45% no. So it was very unsure till yes pulled out. Fourth question I asked, after the beta test, are you more hopeful about the characters? And as you can see here, y'all, 51% said no, 27% said yes, and 22 were I don't know. Meaning the majority of the people who answered were getting worried, and I don't blame them, considering how I also feel the same right now. Since this is the most anticipated update in SSO history, this could make or break the reputation of SSO as a game. Fifth question, based on what we saw from the beta, do you think the body types are body types or body body weights, and 76% said no, their body weights, while only 24% said their body types. And as I stated in the cons, I agree that their body weights, and to further delve on this, here are two references of both feminine and masculine body shapes. And now compare the one to the concept art and the one to the beta. The concept art is a hell of a lot more accurate than the one in the beta. Even then, I'm hoping when working on this that I'll use references for this, because from the beta, I only saw one body shape increasing in weight, and now it's the pear shape. We have a lot of people here at different body types, shapes, and weights. And the fact that for a beta, after work on trying to update the characters for 5 years, this is not what a lot of people expected in 5 years. A lot of people expect a lot more for a beta. And this segues to the 6th question, where I asked, did y'all see yourself in any of the body types of the beta? And 79% of y'all said no, and only 21% said no. So the fact that the majority of the people who answered this said no is concerning, because if you're not able to see yourself regardless, if you're skinny or not, that's concerning. Next, on the 7th question, I asked, do you think it should have had sliders and etc.? And the options I gave was just presets and sliders, and other, and the majority, which was 90%, said presets and sliders, while only 8% said just presets and 2% said other. So meaning 92% says there should be more when it comes to creativity outside of just selecting a preset body type. 8th question, and this is probably gonna start a debate. I asked, do you feel like SSO improved the characters? And this is a mixture. 37% said no, 30% said maybe, 27% said yes, and 7% said I don't know. So overall, it's mainly unsure. I feel like in terms of graphics, yeah, they improved, but in terms of saying the characters are good in the beta, I would more than likely say no, because of mainly the toddler look and the options feeling limited, etc. 9th question, I asked, since the beta test sample was 150 out of 50,000, meaning the sample size was once again 0.3% from the population size of surveys taken, do you think SSO should have had a bigger sample size? And 87% said yes, and 13% said no. And I agree that the sample size should have been bigger and should have been 50% of the population size, so that would be 25,000. And as I stated before, a bigger sample size would lead to less bias, and you would actually gauge more opinions from all over the world more likely. And as I also said earlier, a smaller sample would lead to a bigger chance of more than likely have bias, which is what exactly happened. The majority of the beta testers who were public were mainly sugarcoating, giving very little honest feedback, backtrack on words, or just overly positive about the whole entire thing.
Hi, I'm Ariana, the shark. Yeah, I know I'm vicious, but it's okay, I don't bite. You can pet me, it's all good. I love creatures, I love the earth. I'm like a baby shark. Yeah, it's like I want to put good energy into the universe because I know the world needs it. I love the water, cause I'm a shark, and I'm swimming in the water, cause I'm a shark. Water, yeah, water, yeah, has positive energy.
I can understand loving the game, however, once again, when you're a beta tester, you have to go in unbiased with an open mind and honestly give constructive criticism. Not only that, this was another thing that bothered me, but I feel like the majority of the beta testers that were fully public, there wasn't really any people of color, and the reason why I'm saying this is I feel like we only had people play around with different skin tones, but we didn't really have any thoughts from a person of color that was a beta tester other than people being from mostly the US and Europe, with very few other countries giving feedback. Same goes with most of them being girls, with from what I saw, 1 or 2 were boys. Another issue I have is I felt like they didn't randomly select people, so it looked more like they handpicked people who were going to be positive 24/7 and okay with everything in the beta. As far as we know, the most transparency we got in the beta was stuff SSO said in copy-paste responses and some other things that JustAnotherPixel said that she showed in her aftermath video on the whole thing. But even then, I feel like we're missing more to the story. Next, on the 10th question I asked, was there anything off with the options in the beta, and responses were as followed. They wouldn't give us what we want. I feel like they were scared to do hourglass shapes and boobs, like it isn't sexual. I also feel like a lot of the faces look very alike. There's only a few that don't look alike. The clothes textures wrap weirdly around some body types as well. I really wish our characters could be a bit taller. Mostly I just wish there was more body types rather than the same type at different weights. Also more variety in undertones for the skin tones, as well as lighter and darker shade range. I wish they had height options. The characters' proportions look very strange. They're very, very childlike, and the height looks stuck. The zero motion doesn't help. I'm very disappointed at first. I was very excited that my character could finally look like me, but after reviewing multiple videos, the characters are nothing like me in terms of weight, shape, etc. I wish they had taken more time on them. It seems like they pushed it out just to say they had something. The beta test itself, I believe the 150 players chosen was including the ambassadors, and then as also this was corrected, it was actually supposed to be separate from them. But at this point, I don't know anymore. I was really hoping there would be more androgynous options. I'm trans, and the femme body types being the only options are discouraging. All of them were mainly body shape and mostly about plus size people. There wasn't really enough skinny options. I'm basically roughly translating this, I'm sorry. Of course, plus size folk must be represented, but let's not forget the other body types and shapes. Not skinny bigger bodies to choose from. The same body type of different body weights. I didn't see my body type represented. I think the clothes make the bigger sizes look extremely awkward. They need more work. I'd love to see SSO expand to different looks for the character, but having an option to look similar to our old ones would have been nice. As it's a beta, I believe more body type options will be available because there were in the sneak peek images, same with hair, etc. It's just weird to me that SSO doesn't include other body types. The proportions are kinda off, shoulder, hip, leg length. I would have liked more slim body types, love the curvy ones, but there are too many, 4 to 5, 6. More emotions are needed. I would be cool if we could smile or wink. There needs to be slimmer body weights. Next, on the 11th question, I asked, how did the beta test make you feel? And the responses were as follows. Happy because they are getting it done after years of wait. Pretty frustrated yet excited. Some of it was great, but a lot of it was questionable. Disappointed. Considering SSO's way of doing things, I don't think much will change after this. Excited and hopeful. It's definitely a step in the right direction. Concerned, mostly due to the fact everyone who is doing it is always overly positive. Super underwhelmed. I honestly don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this. Sad, but not surprised at the poor outcome. It made me feel low-key like an alien. A bit hopeful. Kind of frustrated because the animations are the exact same. Extremely disappointed. I don't see the character's name in any of these. Annoyed, disappointed, scared. I don't know. I don't think I'm allowed to have an opinion since I'm a trans man. I'm gonna just say this out here, y'all. Y'all are more than welcome to give your opinion regardless of your gender. Every gender is welcome here. Y'all are able to give your opinions free. I'm gonna say this right now. Y'all shouldn't feel like you can't give your opinion because of your gender. Y'all should be more than welcome to be able to give your opinion. So for those of you that are either girls, boys, or non-binary, y'all are more than welcome to give your opinion. Very excited for the new characters, going to be sad to see the old ones go. It felt weird coming after the campaign about horse girls getting bullied, but this is now going off topic. But there are 7 to 17-year-olds getting bullied for being stick thin and not curvy. SSO is a game for 7 to 17-year-olds. They say and they emphasize it's for girls especially, but there is a lack of appreciation for feminine features if this is the girls' appreciation game. Because the world is cruel. 38,373, whatever number this is. Sorry for the spam. I'm excited. Afraid. I really like my current character and I don't want them changed. Kind of disappointed they worked so long on this and it's not very good besides hair, makeup, and brows. Happy but low-key frustrated. 12th question. I asked in your opinion, what should the age range of the characters be? And the options were 8 to 12, 16 to 18, 18 plus, and younger than 8. Results were that 68% picked 16 to 18, 27% picked 18 plus, and 5% picked 18 to 12, and no one picked younger than 8. As stated from earlier, I agree with both 16 to 18 and 18 plus since I don't think even with the lore, if they used an 8 to 12-year-old, lore-wise, they'd be traumatized, bruh. 13th question. I asked, should there have been more options in the beta? And oh, won't you look at that? A straight 98% said yes, and only 2% said no. And this should be self-explanatory based on other things we've discussed so far, and why there should have been more options, but just once again, diversity and inclusiveness in both directions. Second to last question. The 14th question. Do you think SSO accurately showed a variety of body types and / shapes? And 92% said no, and 8% said yes. And I 100% agree that this isn't accurate because, once again, for a diverse space, it's not really diverse. It's just one body shape increasing in weight, because as you can once again see here, there's a shit ton of body shapes and body types that are not even in the game. Final question, the big one. Overall, after what we've seen so far in the beta, I asked, do you like the beta test characters? And 50% said no, 29% said I don't know, 21% said yes, and so safe to say, the majority are either unsure or a straight hell no. And as for me, I'm at an I don't really like them after everything we've discussed so far. So now that I've said the pros, cons, and the results of the questionnaire, here's my overall concluding thoughts. I do believe SSO has improved graphically throughout the years, from the best horses they've ever done to the best remodels of areas they've ever done. However, with the beta test characters, I'm worried that they'll actually take not only the community's feedback into account, but the few beta testers that were actually honest with their feedback, because of how most of the beta testers were overly positive or they sugarcoated the issues on something. Considering the time with the Gen 3 crackhead Frisians, a lot of people, including myself, start to worry about whether or not things will actually be animated well, because of how, despite the feedback people gave on the Gen 3 Frisians, it was never taken into consideration, and now we're left on the promise from Stacey Place that it'll get fixed. At the same time, it's been almost 2 years since that promise that will actually be fixed. I think the main scenario people are extremely worried about happening is that when they release the characters, it'll be the exact same as the beta, or very little was done since the beta, leading to a lot of people being upset and maybe even potentially quitting from the game. Because of this, having your in-game appearance outside of clothing get fucked up can make or break a lot of people. So with having the responsibility of not only making things more inclusive and diverse, but to also make sure the appearances are actually good is why a lot of people worry. The beta test characters are way too toddler-like, because even before they showed blinking and the awkward facial expressions, in the second week, our mouth hangs open like a baby alive doll. I'm glad we had things like toes, fingers, and more options for hair, eyebrows, darker skin tones, and eye color. But as for how it was executed with not only forgetting to be diverse in both directions worries me. People's creativity really shows when creating a character for the first time, and when you're handling with remaking characters people have known for 10 plus years, you have to hit the balance of new and fresh while also feeling nostalgic. It's even more worrisome when a lot of people say they can't see themselves in the body types they've shown, and a simple copy-paste response isn't going to fix the fear and worry people have for them. Because right now, it's up there with the fear of it turning out like the Gen 3 Frisians animation-wise and look-wise. Do I think they're capable of being able to fix them? Yes, but they need to really take the initiative to do so, because right now, I really hope they don't rush them, and I also hope that they consider things like sliders, height, like have more reference both drawn and IRL reference of different body types, consider having more genders, have more hairstyles, really fix the eyelashes, and many other options. But most importantly, I really hope they do another beta test, and hope that this time it'll be a bigger beta test sample size, because 0.3% is once again really small, and I really hope they actually do a 50% sample size, or at least something bigger than 0.3%, because otherwise you're just going to be getting a very biased response. Plus, I feel like to help with the 50% sample size, it would be good to at least be more organized with having a form, or maybe even a Discord server that can turn in reports more effectively instead of the email way, so that's more organized, because I feel like the beta test was very disorganized, especially in communication. If they really take their time with this, then the characters could be very fucking good. But as of right now, for me, if these were released today, I wouldn't like them. With that being said, we finally finished the month of September. So first off, I want to say thank you to those who respond to the beta test character questionnaire. Y'all are goats. And also thank you to these lovely people for providing me with screenshots and stuff to look at for this video. So again, thank you. And also, once again, crediting the people that I've used footage from, and as well as screenshots that I found. With that being said, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!